first of all, I'd just like to start by saying that my talk tonight is going to be called Game Changer, and it really is about gaming is, as, and for learning, or ultimately is, as, and for education, not in. This is one of the big mistakes that people make when they talk about game-based learning. They say, well, I'm going to, or even esports, quite often they'll say, well, I do esports in education. And it's like, well, anybody can do esports in education, but how do we make gaming for or literally as learning? And it's really, really critical, the difference. And one of the reasons it's so important is because, as Luke mentioned, play really does matter. It's now becoming widely recognised, and there are increasing numbers of white papers and even full published books, starting with, of course, Jane McGonigal's Reality is Broken, on really the power of play on the human brain and the human health and the human body, and how play is one of the fundamental structures within which we learn to live. And we learn to be, and we learn to do, and we learn to socialise. And for some bizarre reason, all over the world, we knock that out of our children. We get to a point, really quite young actually. So for example, in schools in the UK, from the age of 5, when they are introduced to school, they are told that the 15-minute break in the morning and the one in the afternoon are called playtime. And what we inadvertently do by telling 5-year-olds that is that there is now a time for play. You're in the serious world now. Anything in those 15 minutes is playtime, and anything outside of those 15 minutes is no longer play. And it doesn't matter what we do in our classrooms or how we try to engage our children through play, we control it and we structure it, and we tell them that the rest of the time, the 15-minute break in the morning, is their playtime. And that, I think, is fundamentally damaging long term to our children. And one of the most common ways of gaming nowadays is digital gaming, game-based learning well, video games. And so I want to talk to you about the idea that gaming is actually normal. It really is. There's over 2.5 billion gamers in the world. Lots of people say, so what makes a gamer? A gamer is anyone who literally picks up a game, and we're including board games with this one at the moment, but certainly video games is critical and makes up a large number of the statistics you're looking at. But we're looking at people who, as adults, ultimately, as well as children, but mostly as adults, play at least once a week. So many of you on the call are gamers, whether you have ever called yourself that or not. 60% of the population of America play video games daily, every single day. Now, that doesn't mean to say they sit down in front of a PlayStation or an Xbox. It simply means that they might be doing it on their phone. Candy Crush Saga, for example, Tetris, any of those sort of well-known digital video games in the palm of your hand can also be included. Contrary to belief, people say, well, you know, like I've had lots of educators say to me, but, you know, gamers are kids, right? Actually, under 18s make up just 20% or 21% of all gamers worldwide. So 80% of all gamers worldwide are beyond 18. They've left school, they're gone, they're already in the world and doing their thing. You can see all those for yourselves. The balance, the statistic of balance there, 59% of gamers are male, 41% of gamers are female. This is a US statistic, but it does broadly carry over until you get to China, where it is significantly more male orientated. And then, interestingly enough, 13% of new gamers each year are 65 plus. Simply because they are trying to connect with their new generation. They're connecting with their grandchildren, usually around games like Mario and stuff like that. And just one of the odd statistics at the bottom there, dentists are least likely to game. Apparently there was a poll carried out in Europe, and they found that dentists are least likely to game. So I don't know why, but anyway. But is it a new pedagogy, really, though? Because people have been talking about, I mean, I personally, and you're going to find out about my background in a minute, but I've been doing this for 20 years. Now, 20 years is a long time, but actually in the span of humanity, and it's a blink of an eye, and actually even in the span of our educational background, it's you know, blink of an eye also. And so, is it a new pedagogy? I actually don't think it is. So, for example, here's just some of the benefits that we start to discover when we look at Actually, there's a typo down there I'll need to fix in esports. But here's just some of the statistics when you look at it, is to say, well, actually, if we were to introduce this as a new pedagogy, because even if it's not, it's perhaps new to you. So you would be like, well, actually, this is new in my classroom, and that's fine. But surgeons who game weekly make 37% less mistakes. And we're talking neurosurgeons and lung surgeons and heart surgeons make 37% less mistakes. Also, they complete their surgery faster. So next time, heaven forbid any of you have to do this, but if anybody you know or you yourself have to go in for surgery, you might want to consider that your surgeon is a gamer. You might hope your surgeon is a gamer, because they're going to make less mistakes and they're going to do it faster. 93% of game-based class time is spent focused on the learning task. As educators watching this, how many of you can say that? Last time you did something, you had 93% of the class time focused right on that learning task. Games will help you to do that. And the last one at the bottom there, because you can read the others yourself, but more people in the US will watch esports in 2021, or watched esports in 2021, than any other sport except the NFL in the United States. That's a huge statistic. Americans are bonkers for their sport. So we're talking 85 million people watched esports in 2021. Not played. They didn't get on the devices and play. They watched other people playing League of Legends. They watched other people playing Call of Duty. They watched for hours other people playing Dota. And the only other sport that has a bigger audience than that is the NFL. And they believe that by 2025, no other sport will beat esports. And so I've been very lucky in the last 20 years of being I started off as an educator. I've always taught right up until I started moving into my own company and then eventually Microsoft. But I've been very lucky to move around the world and teach in over 70 countries, sometimes for a day, sometimes for a week, sometimes for a year at a time. And as such, I've been very blessed to be able to see lots of different systems, I mean, I've taught in some of the richest schools in the United States, private schools, with children you just couldn't even begin to imagine the money that they have. But I've also taught in South Africa under a tree, literally, where children walk to this tree and we teach them every day. And so I've worked in some of the most diverse school systems in the world. And just to give you an example of some of the work that I do in the United States, for example, we put children into piles of Lego. We own 9 million bits of Lego or something, and we throw them into these big piles of Lego with their parents. I don't know if you can see down on the right there, the woman with the hood up and the chain around her back is actually the little girl's parent, and they're looking for something in there. And when I throw them into those piles of Lego, I say to them, here's what we're going to do today. We're going to do hydroelectric power. And that mom in that picture, which is why I use this picture, she said, sorry, what, they're not just going to play? And I said, no, they are. And she said, no, but you're getting them to think about hydroelectric power. Like, look at the size of them. They're not going to be able to grasp that concept. And I said, just give me an hour. Give me 1 hour with your kids. So we threw them into this pile and we said to them, here's how it works. And we showed them a short video and we spoke to them about it. And I showed them something on my phone because I live near a hydroelectric power dam. And I said, look, this is me visiting one. And this is what happens. And the turbine turns and the water floods out. And then when the turbine turns, we can get electricity, but we need to fill a reservoir up first and so on. And all the kids were super excited about it. And by the time they were finished, collectively, they built this. They built this dam, and there was multiple. There was like 4 different dams had been built, but this was one example. And they got themselves organised into groups because they wanted to find the blue parts. So somebody was looking for blue, somebody was looking for green. They'd understood the topography. They knew they needed a raised terrain. They knew that they needed a valley within that terrain, fill it with water. Then they needed a dam, which was the man-made concrete structure at the front, and then they needed lower terrain, which of course is where the river continues. And they got it. They just got it. And then we took them to Minecraft, and those same small kids, this was the following weekend, those same small kids made this toy box. They made the hydroelectric power dam. They made the fish dam where the fish go up. I added the decoration. I did the walls and things like that, but they made the dam, and it works. if you let it rain in Minecraft, the reservoir fills up, and when the reservoir fills up, the floodgates open, and the floodgates then trigger the electricity, which then lights up the lights inside a house behind the dam. And so now the students, as little as they are, we're talking 6 and 7-year-old students, understand how hydroelectric power works, because we threw them into a pile of Lego and we taught them in situ inside there. We also, oh, this is in the wrong order, but anyway, I'm going to go to, in the UK, I don't know why that's there. In the UK, for example, we got them to build we took them to a building. Now, this is a Minecraft representation of a very real building called Pennycook House. Pennycook House was built in the 1600s. It's a Neo-Palladian house. It was built by a very rich man in the UK who owned cotton trade or silk trade, something like that. Anyway, linen trades maybe. And he took all of that over to India and he made millions. And when he came back, he built Pennycook House. And in 1899, 2 nights before the turn of the century, it burned to the ground. And the people who lived there couldn't stop it because they only had sand to be able to put the fire out. And the ruins now remain. That you can walk your dog there. They never rebuilt it. And so it's a ruin. And I went to the local primary school and said, hey, can anyone tell me what that house is in the top of the hill? And they said, oh, it's Pennycook House. And I said, but who lived there? Don't know. What was it for? No idea. Why haven't they rebuilt it? Pfft, who knows? How did it burn down? Not a clue. Nobody knew. No child in the local area could tell me why this prestigious heritage building that was a key part of the town's history was even there, because it's not taught in the curriculum. They were too busy teaching about, I don't know, the Maginot Line in World War II, or Anne Frank, or Lewis and Clark crossing the American West, to actually teach local, relevant, cultural, meaningful history. And so what we did was we got the kids on a bus, we took them up to this local space, and we gave them pens, pencils, paintbrushes. We had a rope technician specialist. We flew a drone above the building, and the children took data, visual data. They painted it, they drew it, they sketched it, they climbed it, they took every child got a shot of the drone. It was wonderful. And then they took they measured it with measuring sticks and rulers, and they counted all the windows and everything. This was all the ruins. Then they went back to school and they made it in Minecraft 1-to-1 scale. Every window, every door, every pillar, every broken piece of wall, everything. And then using plans that we had and we'd been given by the Clark family who once owned it, they then rebuilt it. They added the glass in the windows. They laid the floors again. They put the chimneys and they rebuilt the roof. And then we set fire to it, just like on the night of 1899. We literally relived a real night in history. This is actually a Minecraft replica of a real photograph. There's a black and white photograph of Pennycook House, and all the furniture is on the lawn, and the house is on fire in the background, and there's nothing they can do. A Victorian photographer took a picture of it. And so we recreated the photo, and then we 3D printed the building, which gave us this. So every child then got a 3D print of the burnt replica of the building that they had made. And then we took it back to the original building and they got to do a photography set with their building. This is what I made. This is what came out of the 3D printer. And that is the building behind. And so now the children can tell us. And of course, all the parents said, oh, if I hear about Pennycook House one more time, my kid just keeps coming home at night and saying, did you know that the Clark family did this? And they went here and they sold that and they built this and they added the stables and then. You want to pass, you want children to pass an exam on historical dates and times and names. Allow them to do what's relevant and meaningful and do it in a way that excites them. With Minecraft, in South Africa, I met a man who lives here. He lives in a township called Kagiso, and he does wonderful work with children. He helps them to build things. So they made all of the railings that you can see inside the windows. They make locks for doors because people get robbed a lot. They literally make houses because the kids don't have a school. There is no school in Kagiso. There never has been. And so the students have, I say students, the children of the village have two destinations. The boys go into gangs or they go into cheap labour, and the girls get pregnant. That's it. That's how they survive. And so what we did was I decided to work with this man, Joseph, and we took one laptop into that little hut, that very hut. They have power for like 3 hours a day. We took one laptop, one 3D printer, and we took one copy of Minecraft. And what we taught the children to do, this is one of the little boys that did it, what we taught the children to do was to make toys in Minecraft. The bigger the better. If they could make a giant teddy bear or a giant spinning top or a giant, whatever, they could make toys. And then what we did was design the toys, create the designs in Minecraft, 3D print the toys in Minecraft, and then paint and sell them. And I'll just show you a little video here. This is a spinning top that one of the kids made. They made mobile phone holders and everything. They eventually got super creative. And then with the money that we got from selling the toys, we bought bricks. And with the bricks, we built a classroom, and then another, and then another. And now we have a school in Kagiso that teaches over 30 children, and somebody donated books when they heard about it, and someone else donated glass, and someone else donated tiles for the roof. And before you know it, we have a whole school. And now there's a school in Kagiso, and they get taught every day. That was in 2019, and the school is up and running. And so with one copy of Minecraft, one 3D printer, and one laptop, we could literally change the lives of every generation of child in Kagiso for years and years and years to come. And so play is absolutely essential, not just in terms of the way we as human beings develop, but the way our societies and our social structures actually form. And so I'm going to just jump over to Minecraft and show you more. And so what is it about Minecraft that really, so I've used 140 games over that 20 years. Everything from the first game that I ever taught with was Command and Conquer Red Alert on the PlayStation 1. And I took the PlayStation into my classroom, hooked it up to an old television, and the students and I, we conquered or liberated Europe based on the storyline. If you're not familiar with it, it's basically an alternative World War II. And what I was really trying to achieve, it was not to do with how many tanks they had or how many soldiers they had. It's not a violent game. It's a strategic kind of game. But the idea was to teach them European history. I had children that thought that France was in Poland and Poland was Italy. And what I needed them to know was a map of Europe. That was part of their exam, was just understanding the layout of Europe. And so what we did was we played a video game that allowed them to either conquer or liberate, depending on what side they were on. The following game that I used was on the PlayStation 1 was Tomb Raider, and we learned about Egyptian and Greek history by being Lara Croft and going into these adventures and finding treasure and looking for things. And the kids just absolutely loved it. Since then, I've used 140 games, everything from Kerbal Space Program to Little Big Planet and, of course, Minecraft. I've even used Red Dead Redemption. And so Minecraft is the game changer, however. Minecraft is the one game still to this day that says you don't have to play my narrative. You don't have to do what I've done. You don't have to take the game that I've given you. You can decide what it looks like and what it does. And so I'm very, very quickly going to show you at its most basic what a new world can do. And I'm going to keep this really simple before I go on to the larger stuff. But I'm just going to say Belgium and Iceland, just to be fair. I'm going to put in there a flat world. I'm going to say always day, no weather, and no mobs. Play. Okay, that's it. So a lot of teachers say to me, how quickly can I get this up and running? I don't have 3 months to learn. You can be up and running in the most simplest version of Minecraft, which is this, in seconds. Now this is a flat world. It's what I call my canvas world. Oh, hang on, you're not seeing this, are you?
Indeed, Stephen.
Yep. I just realised I'm not sharing my screen. Boom, there we are. Okay. How's that? Yeah, excellent. So this is the most basic version of a Minecraft world, but it's still most powerful. Pedagogically, it's actually sound because there's no distractions. Quite often teachers will say to me, I tried Minecraft, but my students got lost in a cave and we could see trees. There was a forest that they went wandering off to and they chased a sheep, and I just say to them, strip all of that out, give them nothing but a flat world. And if it doesn't matter how far I travel in any distance, and I'm traveling now, I will never find anything. And so this is a canvas world. And what I'm going to say to my kids is I'm just going to ask them to take some wool. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There we go. And I'm going to say, show me with that wool, and we're going to do colour theory first. Show me the primary colours. So we're going to do blue, red, yellow. And the great thing about this is, unlike a worksheet, you can see that these are now 3D. The students can stand on them, go between them. They can swap them round if they wanted. They say, actually, I wanted yellow there and I wanted blue there. And so suddenly they've got their own ownership of the space, this 3D space, rather than if this was just crayons and a piece of paper, this is what we would be seeing. And they might have to do multiple versions of this. Now show me the secondary colours. So they're going to say orange, purple and green. And then I'm going to say, show me just the warm colours. So we're just doing colour theory, Key Stage 2 Level 3 mathematics, Key Stage 2 Level 3 colour theory. And then again in secondary school when we do technical drawing, for example, and design application. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to say, I tell you what, let's mix colours. I'm going to give you yellow and blue, and in that hole you're going to tell me what the match is. I'm also going to give you red and yellow, and you're going to tell me what the match is. And then in here, I'm going to ask you on these green blocks, I'm going to ask you to tell me how we make purple. So now we're giving the students things to do rather than just things to look at. And so in this case, they're going to say, OK, yellow and blue equals green, and red and yellow is orange. And then to make purple, I need blue and red. There we are. So now they complete the lessons. But we can move away from colour theory really quickly and say, I tell you what then, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Swap the last one for orange. What percentage of that row is orange? Now we know it's 10%, but as a teacher who knows the controls of Minecraft, we can immediately differentiate for the children that know this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Yep. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's exactly the same sum. It's just been done differently. Or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And then we'll make that one orange. 3 times the same sum, but it's differentiated for different students. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 7, 8, oh no, because we're doing orange, 7, 8, 9 and 10, and then we're just going to make that one orange. 4 times the same sum, but differentiated for different children. And so you can do this, once you've learned how to basically move around, fly and place blocks, you can do huge numbers of things very, very quickly for your students. We can also do things like symmetry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I'm just going to do orange here, and then I'm going to do red, and red. There we go. And then I'm going to say, OK, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then I'm also going to do the same there. Let's imagine this is symmetry. This is our line of symmetry. And therefore, what will this look like if made of glass that is symmetrical? What did I do? I did orange and red, didn't I? Yeah. OK, so now I'm expecting my students to say, oops. There, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we'll fill that in with red. So there's my symmetrical, and then over here, of course, we would be doing a different form of symmetry. So there we go, angle. There. So there's my double symmetry. We could also do tessellation. We can do 2D and 3D shapes. We can do representations of data. We're working with a school at the moment in the Netherlands, and they're monitoring the speed of cars as they pass the school. And so they've got actual machines outside that they've made, a STEM project. And then what we can do is we can do, I'm going to get some signs. I'm going to just get a sign so that we can annotate now. And I'm going to say that this is Monday, Tuesday, you get the idea. I won't do all the day, Wednesday, and then here we've got 10 miles per hour, 20 miles per hour, and so on. And then we can say, OK, on Monday, the average was 10 miles an hour. And on Tuesday, it was 20 miles an hour. And for some reason on Wednesday, Everyone was going 40 miles an hour, etc., etc. And we can keep going and keep going and keep going. And then what the students can do is represent real world data in Minecraft in graph form really, really easily. And they can collate that data and have data-driven worlds, which they then, of course, then put in a spreadsheet or, you know, whatever, however it is that you want to be able to do that. Now, I'm going to move very quickly because I know that we have a lot to cover, but I'm going to move quickly away and say, well, what if we take the flatness of that world and we change it into, now I'm looking for the world itself, plant life, there. How do we then take our classroom and turn it into something that looks like this? This is exactly what I just showed you. Tessellation, symmetry, grid referencing, and 2D and 3D shapes. But now your classroom is a completely immersive mathematical space. Your physical classroom is restrained by 4 walls, windows, ceilings, some doors, you know, some chairs and tables. But actually the digital classroom is not limited at all. The digital classroom can be anything you want it to be, including this giant colourful space. And this is immersive. Every single thing that the students are looking at while they're in this world is related to mathematics. There's a pi castle in the middle. There's sums all around. The entire world itself is symmetrical, but it's also tessellated and it's also grid referenced, and it's made up entirely of 2D and 3D shapes like circles and triangles and cubes and so on. And then if we go over the bridges, we can then teach the students the concepts. So we're going to head to the tessellation area. And when we head over here, there are 3 islands. The first is green, second is orange, and the third is purple. The green area is where we have examples for our students. How do we tessellate a single shape like a square? What if it was a triangle? What about tessellating shapes that don't quite match? They leave a gap. That's okay. What about tessellating 2 shapes at once? That's also okay. And then here's a game that you can play. You can push these through, as you can see. We then push the bottom ones up, as you can see, and it gives us a shape that will always tessellate. And then the orange island is assessment. How do we instantly assess that our children have comprehended what it was that we were trying to teach them? And so we give them grids within which they have to measure the X and the Y axis, and then they have to tessellate shapes within those grids, more complex grids here and here. And then the other one is that we play Tetris. Now, we don't do the whole line break thing, but I just say to the students, we give them their shapes, and then I just sit at the front of the classroom and say yellow, orange, blue. We'll start with pink, and then we'll say yellow. So the students then put the yellow in. Blue, I'm going to put there. Another pink we're going to put there. We'll give them a green this time, and I've made a mistake by putting that there because now I've lost all these. And then what we do is by the time they're finished, we'll give them another yellow, which they can only fit in there. And by the time they're finished, we count how many gaps they have, and the player with the least amount of gaps wins. And it's all about recognizing how we tessellate shapes within to each other. And then the purple area is show me you're working. Where did you get stuck? Give me some examples of your own. Show me how this lesson could have been done better, and so on. You know that as teachers, you know the area. And so we can even give spaces like that. And we can do that for symmetry. We can do it for grid referencing, 2D, 3D shapes, times tables, everything. Now, the one thing that's missing with that world is that there's one component missing. There's 3 magical ingredients, aren't there? Look. There's 3 magic ingredients to making a world that genuinely makes children want to come back and do more. Let me tell you, I have children all over the world asking their parents to email me to see if I've made another maths world yet. Ask that Minecraft guy if he's made another maths world yet. And here's why. This world is slightly different. The 3 ingredients are a great environment. Give children a place that they want to be. We all know this concept in terms of our actual schools. But what about digital environment? Give them a place they want to spend time. The second ingredient is features, functions, and mechanics. Give them something to do that genuinely engages them. Again, it's just like real life, except we're doing it, we're doing it in Minecraft. And then the third is narrative. Give them a story and preferably put them at the centre of that story. So in this case, there's been a plane crash on a mysterious island with a giant forest. and you have survived the crash. And you meet Dr. Wells, who says, I'm so glad you survived the crash. I hope you can make it to the city for the antidote to this disease. One of the 3 paths follows a pattern and leads you through the forest to the train station. The others lead to disaster. Take this iron sword with you for protection and watch for zombies. At this point, your students are going, wait. There's an antidote to a disease and there's a city and I've got to get through the forest to the train station and there's zombies. Now they're engaged. And they take the sword, which they've got here, and they swoosh it around, and then they have some maths to do. If we head over to here, we have blue. Do they take the blue path? So we give them paper and they start to take note. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we've got 6, we've got 12. We could probably estimate that the next one is 18 or 24, or maybe the pattern goes 6, 12, 6, 12, 6, 12, and that's okay. But what we're trying to help the students do is recognize number pattern recognition. Get them to do number pattern recognition. And if they find that it's not a pattern, they need to stop. If they don't stop or they don't recognize that it's not a pattern, they'll end up with a nest of zombies. And as we fly through the forest, we've left all sorts of funny hints and little campsites, and there's little narratives and adventures for them to go on. There's zombies for them to kill. There's all sorts of cool things. Where are the zombies? I think the zombies, there they are, nests of zombies for them to get rid of. But when they finally make it through the forest and they get the mathematics correct, they find themselves in the power station. And inside the power station, they have a next puzzle, which is grid referencing. They need to recognize that the levers on the wall, if I just switch off 1, 1 and 2, 3, you'll see those lights have gone off. 1, 1 and 2, 3 have gone off. And because those lights are off, this door is closed. There is no way that they can get through that door and they can get to the next puzzle. So they have to solve the puzzle. And that puzzle is all about recognizing the pattern. The pattern you'll see there is 2 along, 1 up, 1 up, 2 up, 1 along, 2 along, 1 up, 2 up, 1 along, and so on. If they do that, the gate opens and they can get to the next level where there's another puzzle and another puzzle and another puzzle. And they keep doing the maths puzzles until eventually they reach the city. But when they reach the city, they realize that it's actually, metaphorically and physically, in the hands of a giant dead arm in the middle of the ocean. So this whole time that they've been on this island, they're actually on a dead zombie's arm in the middle of the ocean, and they love it. And the wrist is the railway track, and the finger has a volcano on it, and the kids are just super engaged. And they say to me, can we do more maths tomorrow? Literally. When can we do more maths? Because we're doing it in Minecraft, and we're doing it with environment, features, functions and mechanics, and narrative. Now, I'm going to take you next to the Vikings. This is for our Icelandic friends. We're now going to go to a Viking toy box where we can look at quite literally dozens and dozens of lessons based on Viking culture and Viking history. So let's go and look at this. We've decorated the toy box. It's pedagogically sound because all around you'll see there's nothing else for the children to do except in this giant box that has been opened up, and a diorama of Iceland or Norway has come out. And then as we head in there, we've got the Viking ships. We've got the forestry, we have the terrain, the geography and the mountains. We have the longhouse and the other houses. We have their farming, for example. If we go into the longhouse, we can see where the earl would have sat. They have to gather wood to light the fire, and we can see the tables and they can explore what that was for. This is part of a lesson called Prepare a Feast, where they have to then prepare a feast. But we also have the mythology. So down here we have the golden boar of Freya, and they can get on the golden boar and they can ride around and they can go to war on it. But also up here we have, under this bridge, I don't think I need to tell anyone what lives under bridges, we have a troll. And that troll is inside there, and they have to find the troll, and then they have to document where the troll is and what he looks like, and so on. And so they're actually finding the trolls. We also have frost giants that they have to go and find, and then they have to return them to Jotunheim or whatever. There we are. So they have frost giants that are there, and so on. And one of the things that we do is inside here we have a book and quill. And we are and a camera. And so what we do is we get the students to document their way around Viking history. So they're going to take a picture of the frost giant, and then inside their book, they're going to say, today I saw a frost giant. They come from, correct me if I'm wrong, Jotunheim. There we go. I think I might have got that wrong. Anyway, and so we put that in, and then what they do is they add their picture, and they say, and they annotate it, frost giant, and then they can sign the book. Now they can fill up to 50 pages, so this is a long kind of process, and then they put in their Viking history or Viking mythology. They then click. Of course, we all know that I come from Scotland, and we have all our own giants and trolls and fairies, and it's not mythology at all. People just think it is, and so we click on this. But what we can also do with this is anywhere you find writing in Minecraft, you can click on this little immersive reader sign here, books, signs, NPCs, you name it, and we can put them in, and then we can of course do everything. If you're not familiar with immersive reader, it's fantastic. We can change the background, we can make it white in this case, we can put our switch our verbs on but not our nouns. We can take the syllables off in this case. Let's switch those off, and we can change the language. So let's go and change it into where are we? EFG. Let's put no Flemish. Dun, 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 dun. Well, let's do French, and we can put that in there, and we can click on whole document, and we can now have it read back to us as well using immersive reader.
You have
Sorry?
to search. You have to search for Dutch.
Oh, I have to search for. Do I? Dutch is
Yes,
surely
yes.
there. Dutch.
Yeah.
Pop. There we go. And so you can see there, if I just close that, you can see there, and we can have it read back to us. I'm not sharing sound, so you won't have heard it. But you can see there that so it's accessible. Minecraft, all text of any form in Minecraft is accessible. And speaking of the NPCs, I mentioned them earlier, but down here you can see that we've actually made them. So here's Odin, and it doesn't have to be Odin. It just becomes a character that you as a teacher can add in any world. And you can see that we've added these in here. We've skinned them appropriately. So we're going to add this one, and we're going to call him Thor. And we're going to put dialogue, and we're going to say, hi, I'm Thor. We can put whatever we want in there, and so on. And so the NPCs can then guide with things like narrative or questions and assessment or hints and tips, or there's all sorts of things that you can do with your NPCs. And so those toy boxes, we actually have a Viking one, we have a Roman one, we have an Egyptian one. I want to see if I can find, yeah, toy box Pompeii. There we are. And there's dozens of lessons in each of them. Oops, that one's already. Let me just get you a brand new one. Import toy box. Toy box Pompeii. There we are. There we go. And so in this one, we're now looking at Roman history and Roman culture with the kids. And so you can see there that we've just done exactly the same. We have shields and swords and farming materials, and we have bits of archways and pillars and so on, and this box is just decorated like Roman instead, and then risen out of it is Pompeii, except in here we have things like math lessons using farming. How do you feed an empire? Well, we'll start by feeding your class. The students have to quite literally grow enough bread in order to feed a population in their class for X amount of time. We also have learning geography through merchantism or mercantilism, whatever it's called. And so where did they trade? How did the Roman Empire expand geographically so that it could trade in silk and horses and metal, precious metals and so on? We have schools where the teachers and the children can learn about the numbering system and Latin. Speaking of Latin, we also have a tree over here, which is a languages tree, where we can deal with the root words. So the root word in Latin was com, C-O-M, which in English translates as together. So, and then unity, one of the other root words is unity, which means as one or for one cause. So community Community means together, a group of people together for one cause. Community. Now there's a word in English that we just band around. Microsoft uses it all the time. The MIE, community. It's a group of people together for one cause, which comes from the Latin. How does that translate to the German or the Dutch or the French? Does it translate to Celtic languages? I don't know. And so we need to explore that. We have religious buildings, we have senates, but we have bakeries, we have stables, we have a gladiatorial arena where you literally can press a button, pop, and gladiators appear, and you can have a mini e-sport in your class with your students if you're studying, if you happen to be studying that. But of course, we've ignored to this point Mount Vesuvius. And so let's look at science. Now, these lessons can be done in any capacity. I'm just showing you how we've done it with the Romans. But if I now go into here and take my science stuff, I want to show you one more world as well. So I'm acutely aware that I've got to move quickly. I'm also going to take some stone. Let me go into here. I'm going to take some stone. I'm going to take some wood. Whoops. And I'm also going to take some lava. So what was Pompeii made of? How do we teach the science and the geography of what Pompeii was made of? So I'm going to take some stone and say, hey, it turns out stone's made of silicon and oxygen, 67% oxygen, 33% silicon. What's wood made of? That's surely the same, right? Well, it's not. Of course, wood is made of carbon, hydrogen, oxygen and nitrogen. And what about lava? Because that's just melted stone, so surely that's just like liquid silicon. But it's not. Of course, we have silicon and we also have oxygen, but we've also found aluminium and what was that one? Sodium, potassium, magnesium, iron and calcium. Where did that come from? So now we're doing the science of the history of the geography of Pompeii, and we haven't left this toy box. And then finally, the last part before I show you the last world is Code Builder. Code is built. The ability to code into Minecraft is automatically in there. You press the C key at any time and it will open up a coding interface. And here's one we made earlier. So I've designed one that when I type eruption, Mount Vesuvius will erupt and we can watch the process happen. So I'm just going to come over here. I'm going to look at the volcano and I'm going to type eruption. And when I press enter, you'll see that actually ash starts to fall from the sky. And the kids say, what's that? And I say to them, well, that's the ash. It wasn't the lava that killed the people of Pompeii. It was the heat and the sulfates and the ash that actually covered the city first. That's why the people are still preserved. But you'll also notice that now the volcano's erupting. So not only can we take our children back in time to Pompeii, this is a school trip they could never make, but we can take them to the very moment that Mount Vesuvius erupted, and we can take them through the process and explore what happened. And we can rescue the people and rescue the animals, and we can see if we can escape in a set amount of time, and so on. And so now we're able to live history with the kids. And then finally, and this is the last world I want to show you, though I have many, many, many worlds, as Luke and will attest. But if I go to, where's art, you know what, I'll just load it in manually. Influential artists, right, here we go. Okay, so this was a challenge by an art teacher who said, look, he was a upper secondary school art teacher, and he said, I get it, I really do, I get it. You can do maths and science and literacy and history, and it's wonderful, but I teach art, and specifically art history. I teach children to be able to discern a Monet from a Manet or abstractism from cubism. And he said, and it's dry and it's difficult and kids don't really like it, but I've got to do it. And so we took that challenge and we built an art gallery that the students can visit, 1-to-1 scale. So they are in an art gallery. If I just press F5 here, you'll see us wander around in this little art gallery. And as we head back through to the reception, we find that we can actually visit Michelangelo, Claude Monet, or P.A. Mondrian. So we're going to head into room 1. And now we find ourselves in with the Mona Lisa. We can't just take our children to see the Mona Lisa in Paris, but we actually can in Minecraft. And we get them to research this guy, and we get them to go and look at a lady with an ermine by Leonardo da Vinci, or The Last Supper, or this complicated thing. And there's all sorts of questions. When was it done? When was it painted? Some paintings are missing dates. One of the questions we have here is, all of the artists in this room are men. Surely there were masters who were women. If so, can you research them in their work? If not, why not? Let's explore the patriarchy. And so we have these deep questions that students get involved in depending on where they are. But the key thing about this whole world is that suddenly we're no longer one-to-one scale. We're a small bird in a 17,000 scale replica of the Sistine Chapel. Now we're literally with Michelangelo in the Sistine Chapel looking at pixel art versions of the frescoes on the wall. This is not paintings anymore. These are actual blocks. And if we zoom out, we can see that up close they look ridiculous. But as we go further away, they make the frescoes on the wall. And so now we get the students to meet Michelangelo. They get real graph paper in real life. They design a fresco and they paint the ceiling. And so they can go home at night and say to their parents, I helped Michelangelo to paint the Sistine Chapel ceiling. And then when we go through to room 2, or in this case 3, because I need to do it in a set order, we find ourselves back in a one-to-one scale museum, and this time we meet P.A. Mondrian, Dutch abstract artist, of course, who painted wonderful things like this. And their magic room is, now we're going to become smaller than a bird. We're going to become a paint stroke inside a P.A. Mondrian. And then we give the kids real canvases, real blue paint, yellow paint, white paint, black paint, and red paint. And we give them a real canvas and we tell them to pick their P.A. Mondrian. And one child picks that one. And the little girl opposite picks that one. And you yourself might decide that you want to do that one. And then every single student paints their P.A. Mondrian. They literally take the abstract and make it concrete by using a digital, by being inside a P.A. Mondrian in a digital interface. And then finally, the last one, again, back to one-to-one scale. The last one is Claude Monet, our French impressionist who painted beautiful things like the San Giorgio Maggiore at dusk, and also Woman with Parasol. But when we leave his room, after doing all his puzzles, we find that this whole time we were just a fly in a model museum on the floor of Claude Monet's actual studio when he was a young man. We took this from schematics and a model and some photograph. People surmised that he had a small studio when he was a young man. And we've made his paintings huge. And we've put a Manny on the wall. This is part of a lesson called One of These Things is Not Like the Other. And there's a wedding ring, and there's letters and candles and an unfinished cup of coffee and yellow tulips and a diary. And there's a picture down here of the man himself. And it's really like a mystery. All the students have to do is go around and try to work out who he was. There's a class set of easels. There's 4 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles running around so they can identify further artists. And yet we started in there. And so this is a lesson, this whole world is a lesson in art and scale. And the Sistine Chapel is in the cupboard, as you can see. That was the Sistine Chapel, and the P.A. Mondrian is in the wardrobe with a mop and bucket leaning against it. And so I'm going to finish on that world just on note of time because we've just hit bang on time. But hopefully this has given you an idea of exactly what is the potential. Minecraft is one of the single most incredible tools I've ever used in 20 years of teaching. And I hope that you feel the same and want to try it out. Thanks for listening.